Hello and welcome to MS-4004. My name is Lockie and I'm here to take you through how Copilot can help you in your workday. Now before we begin, a little bit about myself. I'm based in Canberra in Australia and I am a Microsoft technical trainer. I help clients in high compliance scenarios get skilled up in a whole range of different areas, but my specialty is in multi-cloud and also hybrid cloud. That means I've done a lot of work with clients with documents all over the place. And using Copilot as an impetus to kind of bring things together and make the best use of all of the document libraries you have, the databases you build, it's kind of been my modus operandi the last few years here. So, what am I here to take you through? Well, with the lens of high compliance, I do a lot of work about how Copilot actually works under the hood. It's important to understand what it's doing. And my goal is for you to have a good understanding of how it actually works, not how we say it works or how it's said it works in the sales material, how you can actively use it in your workday, and how it works best for you in your specific scenario. So, without further ado, let's begin and start talking Copilot. Now, specifically, we are here today to talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot. There are many Copilots in the Microsoft ecosystem, and Microsoft 365 Copilot is the one that is designed to work with all of the components of Microsoft 365 and Office 365 more broadly. So I think before we begin, it's good to get a little bit of a level set. Let's talk about what it is, what it isn't, and what it's being built upon. So, Copilot for Microsoft 365 is the main child of what we're going to be talking about today. It's the main topic of our course and the main thing that we are focused on. But there are many Copilots, as I said. The Copilot for Word works differently to the Copilot for Excel, the Copilot for Outlook, Teams, Loop, and the rest of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem broadly. Each individual Copilot has its own set of special skills and is designed to work in a specific way. We call these two different types of experiences either standalone or embedded. The standalone experience for Copilot for Microsoft 365 is what you'll get at office.com or over in the Copilot app on your machine. Additionally, Teams actually makes use of the standalone version of the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, and it uses this to be able to reach out to Teams messages, look at calendar invites, and be able to bring in broader context about how Office works on the day-to-day. When we use an embedded experience, we use those in-app. And many of my demonstrations are going to focus on that in-app experience. This is where we focus in on some specific skill set. When we use Copilot in Excel, it's great at coming up with new formulas. When we use it in Outlook, it's designed for drafting emails and being able to coach us into, well, writing the right thing. When we're using it in Word, it's about recreating a document, redrafting, coming up with new suggestions, and looking for new improvements within that behavior. Each Copilot has a specific set of skills, and we look to utilize those whenever we can. But I keep using this word Copilot, and I think it's nice to just have a little bit of a background about what a Copilot actually is. Like, what is Copilot for Microsoft 365? We know what it's going to do for us, and I'll give plenty of demonstrations about how it's going to work for you. But under the hood, it's really three separate components. The first is an LLM, or a large language model. There are many different companies out there coming up with large language models. LLMs are designed to reach out to large data sets of information and be able to find patterns in how human language is written, and a little bit of how human language is spoken as well. We use this to be able to find easy, predictable pathways. So when we say, I have a pet, what's the next word? It could be dog, it could be cat, it could be bird, but there is a pathway that we can follow, and we know what the most likely response is going to be based on the data that we originally feed in. Now, critically, LLMs are packaged and static. Your information is not used to retrain or improve an LLM. These are things that we utilize and that we update over time, but these are generally provided by an external company. Whilst we as Microsoft do make various large language models and small language models ourselves, our research team is very skilled in that area. OpenAI is the main basis for many of the different packages that we use in the LLM space. Now, away from the technical jargon, what are we adding in when you go for a Copilot? The first thing is the protections and guardrails that you come to expect with a Microsoft system. These are things that do evolve and improve over time. We use this to ensure that when you use a Copilot, it responds in an appropriate manner. It behaves in a way that makes sense for an enterprise. You want something that you're going to use at work to feel like a tool you should be using at work. So we leverage the different pieces of our ecosystem, the different APIs we already have access to, and the great skill we already have in terms of filtering language, in terms of making sure that it is fair and responsible in its responses, and ensuring that it is grounded in a level of reality and accuracy. And the last critical piece, the thing that makes Copilot for Microsoft 365 something different, is the graph. Now, what the graph is a reach out API where we can hit an endpoint, a point in your environment that says, what's on your calendar? What's in your Outlook? What's on Teams? This is the thing that allows us to feed in all of the baseline components of the LLM, packaged with those protections, and then we add on the content you provide from your Microsoft 365 environment. So, baseline package wrapped with all the protections and guardrails you need to be enterprise ready, and then you bring the content, the thing that makes it personalized to you specifically. That is what a Copilot is, and that is what Copilot for Microsoft 365 is when you actually use it on the day-to-day. The Copilot system is designed to be able to give you a simple, trusted place to be able to do your work. We use these LLMs in combination with the graph in order to give you that proper, seamless integration across that Office 365 suite. And additionally, you can expect that there is going to be contextually aware responses. So that is the baseline of what Microsoft 365 Copilot is and what it's going to provide for you. There is a critical thing that you do need to know about this work version of Copilot. It is license-based. So you do need to ensure that you have the correct license in your environment and that it has been enabled in your environment today. Copilot is not on by default. It is something that an organization needs to enable. Of course, right now, for non-work use, you have access to a Copilot. Over on Bing, there is a Copilot available for general use and for great web queries. But it's not designed with enterprise protections in mind. It's designed for general search terms and general use cases. If you are looking to integrate with Microsoft 365, pulling your emails and all of the things you expect out of a work environment, that's where we're going to require a license. So if you don't have access to it today, there's a couple of things that need to happen in the back end there, and that might be why. Now, let's talk about what Microsoft 365 Copilot does for you specifically. The three things you see on here: understanding context and user need, transforming how you work, and giving yourself a whole bunch of key capabilities. These effectively show what a base Copilot is able to normally do. The understanding of context, that's based on the graph. The more we can pull in from there, the better we are able to work with the data you provide. Transform how you work, large language models, and the secondary piece of that, a natural language processor, means that we can take the questions you ask, run them through an algorithm, and then the LLM can process them and give an output that feels right. It feels like you're talking to someone, like you have an assistant or a Copilot on the side. And of course, the last thing is that baseline LLMs have many key capabilities that we are leveraging. The ability to rewrite, to analyze, to find different components, whilst also ensuring that you are, well, secure. You have access to the things you should have access to and no more. It's critical to ensure that we're managing all three of those pieces. This right here is the logical architecture of how a Copilot actually fits together. And I like to leave this one in just as a way of giving you one last set of how the graph actually functions. Just remember that a Copilot alone, the thing that we see at this point, that Microsoft 365 Copilot out of the box, it does great work, but doesn't know you. The graph, the thing that means that if it is something you can't see, Copilot can't see it. If it's something that you are able to pull, Copilot can pull it. We use your permissions. So if Copilot can see it, you can see it. That is a really important part of how we have designed this. It should work out of the box with all of the various permissions you already expect. So always keep that in mind. Now, there's one last piece of this that I haven't actually defined properly yet. We talked about LLMs already, those pre-packaged components, and we've talked about Microsoft 365 apps. But I only really quickly went through what a natural language processing component is. One of the key things to remember with large language models, the thing that Copilot's based on, is that they don't really understand anything. It'll feel like it. They're extremely good at being able to predict what they need to say next to be accurate and say the right thing. But natural language processing is the actual thing that allows you to talk to a Copilot. It takes your language that you speak. English is the easiest example that I can think of for what we tend to talk about here. I have a dog. That will get translated into 1, 2, 3, 4, a series of numbers that represent the words we're saying. Then all we need within the large language model is to find the pattern of those numbers within it. And then at the end, we need to then run it in reverse. We need to take the output of numbers we have and be able to feed them back into normal language. It's the 1-2, going from things you say in the way you like to say them, bringing them down, running them through an algorithm, and then outputting them back out. When you look at what it's actually doing under the hood, you'll be astonished at just how good Copilot is at being able to pick up what you need and how you need to access that info. Always remember, because of the way that the graph works, it is always based on a compliance-first opinion. If you cannot see it, Copilot cannot see it either. I know I've emphasized that already, but it's super important to say. What this does mean is that if you find that Copilot can see something that's unexpected, let your organization know. It means that you've been able to see it this whole time, and we need to get that fixed. This is an important piece of Copilot. It reaches out to all of the graph that is available. So if it is able to return something, you've always been able to see it there. Let people know if you ever see something that's not right. The last big piece I want to emphasize here, before I just show you a little bit of Copilot, is I want to talk to our responsible AI. Microsoft has, for a very long time, had a key set of responsible AI principles, and we adhere to them at all times. Responsible AI principles and practices around compliance with various government organizations and government bodies, making sure that we are using this in a way that makes sense and ensuring that you have access to the tools in a safe manner. This is our core goal. The AI tools that we have should be trustworthy. That is a key component of it. And we want to make sure that you are able to feel that these tools are trustworthy, that you can use them in the way that you expect and you can trust their output. Additionally, you should be able to be empowered to use these AI tools responsibly. We make sure that there are guardrails in place so you can use them and fall into the right space to ensure privacy and security is paramount. So always keep this in mind. We have responsible AI principles. We use this to define how these AI tools are actually designed. And we recommend that you follow those principles too. Feel free to take a look at the responsible AI principles over on learn.microsoft.com. We publish them out publicly and we're proud of them. All right, next we're going to go across and we're going to take a look at how Copilot works. And I'm going to show you just a few quick tours of some simple prompts that we can run to see how things work in our environment. Okay, so welcome to Copilot. This is available over at office.com, but as I mentioned, there's many different ways you can reach Microsoft 365 Copilot. Here on my main screen, I am currently in work mode. At the top of the screen, you'll see work and web. Work means that we are in your enterprise environment. We're going to use internal documentation and things that you have access to in your SharePoints, OneDrives, and also in any Teams, Outlook messages, etc. Straight away, we can see easy examples of some potential prompts that we can use for Copilot, such as, I've got a daily stand-up. Maybe I need some help preparing for that. Gabriel Woods has been contacting me. What about the latest messages from them? These are far from the only prompts that you're able to do with Copilot. The world's your oyster. Use your imagination and think about the ways that Copilot can work with you. It's using a natural language processing system, which means talk to it in a natural way. Use slang, use terms, but always be nice. Just like a person, Copilot responds better when you are kind to it and when you do say please and thank you. I know, but it does make a big difference. On this screen, there's a couple of important things that we need to know. First, the shield up the top. Anytime you see this shield, you know that your enterprise data is going to be protected. But the way this reflects is slightly different depending on what we're looking at. In the work mode, it means we're going to bring in your enterprise data. In the web mode, it means we're going to exclude it. So you've always got a guarantee that when you're using Copilot at work, whether you are using the web mode for general public chat or using the work mode for internal documentation, as well as potentially content from the web, we're able to make sure that your data is protected. You will see my little chat history coming on there as well. The chat history is always available in a little panel window on the right-hand side. Additionally, in the three dots at the top here, you'll see there's a little web content button. Sometimes it's good to flick that web content off, and so we don't pull in things from the web and we keep things purely internal. It's your call, but it's a nice little thing to work with. Now, what we're going to do is just a pretty simple prompt here. I have a daily stand-up coming. It's pulled in my calendar invite and it's got some information. Help me prepare for the project widget daily stand-up. Copilot is now running that prompt live. It gives me details about what's actually going in. We've got some additional components from external sources. This has pulled in some emails from my inbox there. It's also got the details in the agenda from the meeting itself and even who organized it. This sort of quick overview is perfect for what Copilot is great for. We see references to each of the things that it needs to reach out to. So if you need to pull in some extra data or get some extra context, you've got it straight away. And you've even got some follow-ups here. Drafting my update will give me a little bit of summary context on those extra emails. It's very easy and it's designed to be simple to pull in extra information from these other sources. So think about how you can use Copilot in your day. Now, this is the standalone experience. Beyond this, there is, of course, all of those embedded experiences. A quick tour of some of them. This is the embedded experience in Word. You have the ability to draft new documents with Copilot, as well as using it as a rewriting and coaching tool. Either way works well for us. Whatever works well for you is the way to use it. Within Word, there is also the side panel. And the side panel is great for asking general questions. If you need to ask a question about other documents, to pull some components in, or even link in external files, that's where you're able to do that and be able to create new content from other sources. In Outlook, there's two primary skills that we've worked with. The ability to summarize email threads, number one, very important. When I get a lot of emails overnight, I want to know what's actually going on and why I got so many. A quick summary of a thread can help you get up to speed fast and works brilliantly every time. The drafting of emails, it's a longer kind of process there. Maybe you want to change the tone. Maybe you've got the core points that you want to say, but you need to find a way to put it all together, get the context right. You can use the drafting capabilities to find that right wording, change the length, change the tone, even make it into a poem if you want to. If you're using Teams, two main ways we can use it. The Microsoft 365 chat is available, so you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot's full feature set, reaching out to multiple sources and getting context. Or you can keep it contained to a single chat thread. Both are useful in different ways. The chat thread feature is great if you're trying to work out what that action item needs to be from a long set of history, or with lots of back and forth in an asynchronous world, just what actually matters to me. What do I need to be doing here? This is far from the full set, but always remember that work-web switch. If at any time you want to remove the work context and only pull from the web, ask general questions. What is an LLM? How does this work? Tell me about this animal. The sort of things that the kiddos like to look up as well. Always use that web mode. The web mode also has a nice little feature on the side, the ability to go through and change the conversation style. Different conversation styles give you different responses. A creative response is going to go far off the beaten path, whereas a precise response is going to focus on the facts and figures. Take your pick. Within the Copilot for Microsoft 365, we focus more on the precise above all else. Accuracy is key when in an enterprise environment, so that's the key focus for us. Now, the big thing to remember is that Copilot and Copilot for Microsoft 365, it doesn't end with just the Copilot chat itself. AI itself and working with AI tools, it's both art and science together. Yes, there is definitely a lot of creativity and you have full freedom to use these tools however fits you. Truly, I want you to experiment and iterate. That is how you get better at these tools, and the better you get at using the tools, the better the responses. The better the responses, the better you're going to use them, and so on and so forth. It's a positive feedback loop, and it's brilliant. AI is designed to not give the same answer twice. Well, sometimes it can, but it follows whatever path makes the most sense based on what you've said. Change up your wording. Sometimes AI is what's known as usefully wrong. I know, but if you're looking for a creative thing or trying to come up with ideas, it's going to try and look for different pathways to follow each time. This means that we get different prompts, different thoughts, different ways of drafting or other areas to improve every time we ask. Use your different AI skill sets and use this as an experimentation. Don't treat it as a one and done, always the same. Use it as a conversational tool and a conversational partner to experiment and to test ideas with. Now, there is a number of clear best practices. You don't have to follow these, but following them will get you a better response, guaranteed, with any large language model. So of course, well applies to Microsoft 365 Copilot. First, be clear and be concise. Don't waffle on if you can avoid it. Try and keep your wording clear, try and keep it short, but don't leave things out. Always ensure that you are providing feedback if things are wrong. Ensure you add extra context if it's needed. Just try and keep it to whatever the minimum would be. Just like us, Copilot works best when it's a short phrase or short emails. But also like us, it needs all the context there. So make sure you provide it all together. The next and important thing is that you should trust what Copilot says, but at all times, verify. AI and large language model tools, they have great pattern matching skills and are extremely accurate. But there is a reason we have the disclosure that AI tools are sometimes incorrect. It's pattern matching. It's not a human with the understanding there. And just like someone who doesn't have all the context or maybe doesn't know the whole scenario where you're rubber ducking a question off, we want to ensure that we're checking their work. Make sure you check the responses from Copilot for accuracy, especially when you're dealing with very specific numbers. Additionally, Copilot's not actually designed as a replacement tool, so don't use it for everything. It's not skilled in every area, and it's not supposed to be. It's got specific skill sets to help supplement your workday and make you better at what you do. It's an extension, not a replacement, so don't over-rely on it. Also, make sure that you just are creative with it. Do fun stuff, test things out, push the limits. Copilot is a tool that lets you unlock your creativity. And that is sometimes in the most menial of forms, but using it to extend out words that you find to struggle to get on a page, or just finding the right way to say that message. It's always a different way of using it, but focus in on being creative with it and using it in the way that makes you feel good. And the last two are important for us. Stay updated. We're always improving Copilot and adding in new protections and new skills, and ensure that you're prioritizing privacy and security. Those go hand in hand. New skills lead to new ways of using Copilot. New ways of using Copilot lead to new areas that you might not expect. So always be understanding and be cautious when you're working with sensitive data. Copilot will work with your sensitivity labels and all of the things we expect, but you still need to be careful and still need to be cautious. So always be thinking at the forefront, how am I prioritizing privacy and security while still getting the most out of the tool? Now, when you are building a prompt, what you are looking at here is the most effective way that you can write a prompt. Again, you don't have to follow it, but a best practice gets you best results. Always give Copilot a goal. In this case, I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context, it's for an upcoming meeting with a client. That's going to change language, tone. It's going to change a lot about what we are responding. Give the expectations, a tone that is friendly but authoritative. That's important. We're changing how Copilot's going to say things, and that's going to change a lot about the different ways we put it together. And of course, your source. If you only want Teams messages, if you only want emails, only provide those. This goes for all different types of prompts as well. As much as the examples here are focused on Teams and email messages, if you are drafting a document, you're thinking about summarization, you're creating a presentation, whatever it is, think about the ways in which you can effectively prompt your environment. We have some great guidance on effective prompts over on learn.microsoft.com. So if you're looking for more information or deeper dives into what makes an effective prompt, go check it out. Last of all, in the best practices, there are also a few simple don'ts. Always be clear and concise. Don't be vague. When you're vague, Copilot will respond in unpredictable ways, just like a person would actually. If you don't give them the details, they're not going to quite know what to say. So they might do something that's unpredictable. Focus on if-then conditionals. If it doesn't work here, go do that. If you don't find this, go do this instead. Get creative. Use analogies. I use slang all the time, and it works great. If you can't quite find the word, use the one you've got at hand. Think about it and just talk to it in the way that makes most sense for you. One that's a really nice hidden feature of the way that LLMs work, great at role-playing. If you need to put it in the shoes of a client or put it in the shoes of a manager, tell it it's a manager. That's its job now. And it will go through and it will play that part. It can be really good for testing out stressful scenarios or really just trying to work out what sort of questions someone might ask in the room. And the last important one, you don't have to put it all in one prompt. It can be a conversation. We call them chats. And this chat back and forth can be a series of different prompts. Each chat is a totally new context. So bring in the information you need and then ask for the details of it all together. Summarize the context, summarize the content, and bring all the parts in before you go through and do that. Last of all, you know that Copilot's not going to be good at everything because it's not supposed to be. It is a skilled tool. It's a scalpel, not a hammer. If you have a repetitive task, that is great for it. If you've got clear tasks with repeatable pieces, that is what it is good at. If it's something that's ambiguous and requires interpretation and is hard to work out, that's something that Copilot can assist with, but it needs you to make that last bit of the difference there. Be clear, Say please, be polite, be curious and ask preliminary questions, and iterate. Iterate, iterate, iterate. This is the most important part of getting good at using Copilot. So provide feedback to it. Say, that's not what I was expecting. I want it more like this. Give it samples. Give different pieces of information. Do what you can to try and find the right sort of response. Beyond this as well, if there's something else you need to bring into Copilot, your organization can actually extend it into external tools. We support a whole range of ERP and CRM applications to be able to pull in document stores, wikis, blogs, you name it. If it can integrate with the graph already, we can integrate it with Copilot. So if you're looking for a way to extend this out, there's many different options you have available. All right, now that we've gone through the basics, I think it's time to work out what Copilot can do for you. Let's dive in, and I'm going to show you some options on how Copilot works for your specific environment. For sales professionals, effective communication is the bedrock of success. Up ahead, I'm going to show you how mastering the use of Copilot isn't merely advantageous. Copilot serves as a strategic partner across diverse sales scenarios involving Microsoft 365 applications. Whether it's crafting outreach emails in Outlook, managing client data in Excel, designing impactful sales decks in PowerPoint, or fostering seamless collaboration in Teams, it empowers sales professionals like you with refined techniques vital for excelling in their career. Now, I've prepared some example use cases to show you how you can hit the ground running and get the most out of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So, let's jump straight in. Now, Microsoft Loop makes teamwork easy by letting sales professionals create, share, and work on content together in real time. When you combine it with Microsoft 365 Copilot, you have yourself an AI built for brainstorming and drafting. It can write text, make tables, generate code, and answer questions fast to boost productivity. So, let's head on in and use Copilot Loop to research a new market and put together a report. Here we are over at our office.com page, and Loop is up on the page here. If you don't see Loop on your main home page, not a stress. Head to the Apps tab and you'll find it in there. Now, jumping in, we're going to need to create a new workspace. And for our purposes, we're going to pretend we're part of a market research company called Fabricam. So, Fabricam Research it is. Now, one of the fun things you can do with Loop is set a little icon. Choose whatever you like, but as long as it makes it meaningful and noticeable, that's kind of the main thing here. Grab a little graph, pop that in. Note the sensitivity labels. You can choose to set an organizational sensitivity labels and choose to invite others to collaborate with you as well. Here we are on our first page in Loop. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is, well, say what's on your page. Market research it is. And from this point, Copilot immediately pops up. We can start to go through and draft Copilot using some of the inbuilt prompts, or we can come up with something ourselves. Each one of the buttons that you see here, reuse a page or use a Loop template, give you places to start. The Loop templates are a great place to begin, but we can actually call upon them ourselves if we want, simply by typing a question in. So, as the VP of Sales for an OEM in the plastics manufacturing industry, beautiful, I want you to research the market for plastic components in the automotive industry. Something like that. No, it doesn't really matter if you make a few typos along the way. You can always catch them later, and Copilot's honestly pretty good at being able to pick up the slack. All right, now we're going to need some extra information out of this as well. So what are the other things I need to know? All right, it's not just that I need the research there. I want to know about market size, competition, trends, regulations, distribution channels, stuff like that. So let's go through and put them in. All right, market size. We're going to get our competition that's in play. Let's get our trends that's in the market. Let's find out our regulations and the distribution channels. Wonderful. Now that we're ready, fix up any problems we've got, hit send. Copilot will live generate the report, and it will go through and start generating that new content, well, on the fly. The core piece of Copilot as a research assistant like this is that it's going to reach out to external sources as well as look internally at your documentation to see if there's something it can be putting into play here. All right, we've got our first cut of the report. There's our market size component, beautiful. We've got a little bit of competition pulling in from external sources there. We can see some trends in the industry, like weighting, EV, sustainability, all ones that I would expect. Some regulations that we need to keep in mind, good to know. Direct sales, OEMs have established direct relationships. I think that makes sense. All right, beautiful. So we've got our first cut here. Now, I think there's some differences that might be useful to change. So what I can do is highlight a section that I want to shift, and I can ask for it to be rewritten. Now, a few different ways you can do that. You can either change your initial prompt and we'll regenerate the whole area, or we can change just a small component of it. In this case, I'm redoing it so I've got a table instead. I know the person that's going to want to read this, they're going to see it as a table and they're going to understand it a lot better. It's only a small cut and it's only a small example. Heck, you can even see that I've gone and selected the wrong part here. Not a problem. It is still just loop, so you can grab the content, easily put it into a table, get it in exactly the way you need, and start inserting that extra bit of content for that brainstorming draft that you need. Pop in our details, clean things up a little bit, and now we're ready to go. All right, I reckon there's some more we could do here. I'm going to hit that Copilot button again, shows up at the bottom of the screen, and I want to add a recommendation. So let's go through and add our recommendation to the end of the report as to whether we should move into the market or not. Now, I want you to note the response that Copilot is going to give. It's not going to be like a definite, you should absolutely move in sort of thing. Copilot will always hedge its bets. We need humans to make those sorts of calls. But as a research assistant, well, there is a projection of growth in the area. There's an increasing demand. The trends towards things show that there is demand in this space. High level of competition, the key players are robust. There's a dynamic market, lots of changes. It aligns with the broader industry trends. It's a lot of words there to kind of talk about it, but that shows that we've got a good direction to work with. So use Copilot as a research assistant. Use it as a thing to be able to do that initial exploration, the initial points of research to give you the jump-off points, to go beyond the draft. Microsoft 365 Copilot in PowerPoint is like having your own presentation making assistant. It can turn written documents into polished decks, complete with speaker notes and sources, or you can start fresh from a simple prompt. You get to focus on what you do best, while Copilot handles the design and the formatting. Need quick insights? It can summarize presentations into key bullet points. For creativity, it'll suggest design ideas tailored to content, saving you time. Plus, you can create slides directly from Word docs, choosing layouts and themes with ease. It's all about letting you boost your productivity and giving you the ability to deliver your message with impact. Now that example, using a Word document to create a presentation, that's what we're going to be doing. Here we have the market trend report for Contoso Protein Plus powder. It is the new social media sensation, but we've been handed a pretty dense report here. There's some good stuff in here, 100%, but immediately I think I could do with a little bit of a summary. At the top of the page, Copilot sits in Word to be able to give you just a quick 101, the highlight points that you need. Now I can change this summary away from a quick standard summary, but we're actually here to create a PowerPoint. So we're going to use the tools in Microsoft 365 PowerPoint to go and actually make the uplift there instead. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy the link to this document. There are many ways to do this, but I'll show this one first up. Now, once we've got that, we're going to head back across to Microsoft 365 and we're going to create a new PowerPoint presentation. When you first boot up PowerPoint, right away, Copilot has popped up and asked if you'd like to create a presentation about something. We can create it with a file. That'll actually open up a prompt to help you find the file within your OneDrive or SharePoint, or we can simply give it the link. By giving it the link directly, we know exactly what document it's going to be referencing, and we don't need to worry about seeing if it's in our most recently used or MRU section. Now, generating your PowerPoint slides will take a bit of time. We're not talking hours here, but give it a minute or two. The pieces that are going to come through are going to be based on the sections of the document. If you've got broad headers and you've got nice structure in a document, you'll find you'll get better presentation structure. If the structure's not right, drag it around. Change the order, add new sections in. If you're missing a topic, tell it to add a topic. Let's go through and add something around maybe potential marketing campaign ideas. Perfect. We can go through and just add this into the mix, and it will go look at the document, check the sourcing, and think about some other things that we might be able to add into the sales mix. So we'll get that in. It'll generate some new topics. Beautiful for social media, influencer, email, in-store. I think those are all good places to begin. Now, if you're not happy with the section, you don't feel it's relevant, get rid of it. Easy as that. At the moment, all we're doing is changing the layout and making sure we've got all of the right sections in play. Last, I'm going to add a little Q&A section. And adding it this way, asking for a question and answer section, absolutely, we can do this later, but I like doing it here because it allows it to also add a frequently asked questions section. Now, it's not 100% that it will do this. You'll have to ask specifically if you guaranteed want it. But I like adding an FAQ in my section, just so we can nail the early questions. Right now, you see the slides being generated. Step by step, we are going through and we are creating each slide to be able to pull out the data and show what the layout's going to be. Copilot uses a set series of layouts, and so if you want to use your own organizational branding, there's actually instructions available in the Microsoft Docs to help you find how you can fit organizational branding, pull in all of your own sample images, the whole shebang, directly into the environment here. All right, let's take a look. So, first pass on this, I'm liking this so far. We've got a good question and answer section. I think we could probably do with a bit of a design change. Let's try something else out here. We'll just go into PowerPoint Designer. I'll select something different, maybe nice and green. Okay, too green. Let's go back. We'll shift back to something a little bit more professional, a little bit more work appropriate, I suppose. And we'll work with this for now. All right, from here, you always have your PowerPoint Designer to assist. The design suggestions are live. They give you an easy way to refactor the content and be able to readjust what Copilot has generated. You can see that it's pulled in reference images that are great, kind of easy examples based on keywords within the slide itself. If you don't like the layer, simply change the layer and it will readjust and find a new way of fitting everything together. I think let's get rid of that particular Q&A slide. We're not quite happy with how it generated it, but that's okay. Iteration is the key name of the game here. Let's go through and ask Copilot to actually make a new Q&A slide for us. So let's add an open Q&A slide to the deck. Now note I haven't asked for a specific slide number here. Copilot always adds new slides after whatever slide you currently have selected. Even if you specify a specific slide number, it'll ignore it. So select the slide you want the slide to be inserted after, and it will do the job perfectly. All right, I'm more happy with this as an open Q&A. I think this works a lot better. So let's go add a little bit here. So in the speaker notes of the slide I just created, can you please add a list of potential questions? Even in a Q&A, we're always going to get the same sorts of questions every time, right? So let's add them in. Okay, we're going to get that Q&A FAQ component generated. Here's some potential questions that are not answered in the FAQ slide. Would I like those added to the speaker notes? I think so. Let's get them in. Actually, I think we need something else here. Can you also add some answers to these various Q&A questions? I'd rather have something that I can have pre-prepared. So let's get those in, and so we can add those into the speaker notes as well. Okay, that's looking a lot better. So what are the differences? And then a quick update on what the differences are. Little pieces of information that I can quickly follow through. All right, let's add those into the speaker notes directly. I'll hit the please add these answers to the speaker notes. And let's see what Copilot does. Would you look at that? We're nearly done. And there it is. The answers have been added to the speaker notes in the open Q&A slide, but it made a new slide for us. Copilot can sometimes behave in ways that you might not be expecting. That's all right. What it's actually done is created a new version of the slide and it's missed some of those speaker notes. Not a problem. The speaker notes are still available for us to copy in and be able to pull in directly. The best way to get speaker notes consistently added to your PowerPoint presentation is to ask for them up front. If you're looking for additional speaker notes to add into your environment, copying them in like this works well. But of course, ask for them when you generate your PowerPoint slide. Alternatively, ask for the speaker notes on the side, and then you can simply put them into the place that you need to. Here, I pop them into my open Q&A session. I've got the one slide ready to go. I think we're ready and up and running. And with that, we've got ourselves a nice basis to start with. Our presentation is complete. We've got ourselves a place to begin, and we can go back and start improving and adding in our own little flares to it to make sure it fits the needs perfectly. All right, now let's head over to Teams. Teams actually has two ways to use Copilot. You can use Microsoft 365 Copilot in Teams when you have a specific chat you want to work with. This usually gives you about 30 days of data. Or you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot chat directly. This allows you to work with Outlook emails, and that's what we're going to look at here. So the first thing we're going to work with is a quick summary. I want to find all of my emails, meetings, chats over the last 30 days related to Project Widget. So let's go through and get those now. There's lots of different example prompts that are actually popping up on the screen, and you can even see a chat history on the side of some of my details as well. Now, this is a sales area that we're looking at. So let's get some details specifically on sales and financial numbers and see what we come up with. All right, first thing that's popped up. You'll see that there's some results about Fabricam's financial results. And that's interesting. Why would we be seeing something along those lines? Well, it's likely linked to Project Widget. That likely is important. This is actually pulling from other context, and it's pulled from an email and a Teams message where there was where both Fabricam and Project Widget were mentioned together. So always remember that Copilot knows context through all of the things that you say. All right. Let's list a set of bullet points where there's action items. Stuff I actually have to do in an environment here. So let's get those action items up. Stuff I need to actually go fix. There's a few different points in here. And immediately we're getting presented with other components. So here's the stuff I need to focus in on asynchronous components. There's an escalation. And there's financial documents. That's where the Fabricam docs came from. There's also those lovely little prompts down the bottom. So if I need to draft a response or want to get a summary deck together, they're already in place. Common actions I need. All right, so based on the information I've got so far, what is going to be the most important thing? Let's synthesize the details together and find a list of actions that I need to undertake, most important to least important. I am also putting in something here to make sure that Copilot understands what important is. And what's important to you is different than what's important to me. Copilot can always make a best guess based on general definitions and general patterns. But if there is something that means important to you, financial success, timeline, whatever it is, we can use that as a decider. I've chosen urgency to see if there are things that have been marked urgent to ensure that they get prioritized up to the top of the screen first. Now, do I need help drafting a response to Holly? No, that's great. What action items involve Holly though, so I can get ready for the next meeting that I'm coming into? Well, let's get them up. Let's get them pulled together and we can have a quick list of things that I need to do. Did you see how fast that response was? We've already gathered the information, so it's pulling from the responses in the chat history we already have. So if we wanted to go through, generate some extra pieces here to be able to pull the content together, we're now basically at our ready. Use Copilot as a way to do that quick catch-up right before you walk into a meeting, just to make sure you've got all of the details on hand, ready to go. Finally, let's see how Microsoft 365 Copilot helps create, edit, summarize, and compare documents easily. Copilot acts as a research assistant, gathering insights from various sources and helping you come up with new ideas and recommendations to the problems you're facing. Now, we are going to start from scratch here. Blank document, blank slate. I know it's not a comfortable space to be, but Copilot helps you fill in the gaps and get yourself into a starting state from the get-go. So, with a blank document, we'll open it up, and once we jump in, Copilot is immediately ready for us. At the top of the screen, we're already seeing some pre-populated example prompts. You're under no obligation to use these, but if it's based on something that's just a recently opened document, it's already there to go. I have a prompt of my own that I want to bring in. I'm a sales manager for Northwind Traders. I'm a supplier for grocery and beverage products. I want to create a report that compares the number of supplier agreements that we have. We're going to supply those ones and attach them to the prompt here. And I want some recommendations on contract renewals. Be polite, say thank you. We're going to reference our content using the attach method here. The attach method allows us to be able to search for documents based on the name. So typing supplier finds me those documents straight away. We always preference most recently opened at the top. So most recently used, MRU, is the phrase that we use there. But sometimes we need documents from other locations. If you type / and then begin typing the document name, you might find it that way. But note that I haven't found anything because my documents don't start with the word supplier. This is sensitive to making sure that it's what you actually have named the document. So instead, upload and browse files from cloud will do the same job. This will grab all of your documents that are sitting in your OneDrive or from SharePoint sites that you have access to. We can grab the relevant information and pull in the supplier agreements we need to. Now I've got a few that I need to grab here, so I'm just going to make sure that I grab the right ones. Okay, so we've got one attached already, so that means I need to grab Worldwide Importers and also, not Tailwind, the Contoso supplier agreement. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3. There is our 3 supplier agreements. And at this point, Copilot should have all of the references it needs. So let's hit generate and see what Copilot comes up with. All right, we're working on it now, and we'll start to see our first iterations coming through. There it is. Now that is a lot of information immediately on our table. In most scenarios, I'd probably want to spend a bit of time reading through, but let's just check that conclusion. By renegotiating key terms such as payment periods, pricing adjustments, renewal. I don't know, it doesn't feel quite right to me. Let's go through and actually just get a regeneration. I don't quite know what's wrong, but something needs to change. You can ask Copilot to regenerate content and it will try and find a new pathway to the same sort of answer. So let's take a look now. Focusing on long-term automatic renewals, we can secure more favorable terms, tailoring. This does feel a little closer to the language I'd like to use. If I'm not happy and I want to go back, 1 to 2, you can always roll back between previous drafts. So never stress about redrafting within Copilot. Now, once I hit keep it, that blue highlighting has now gone away. That is important. We are now in a published state, and you can use Copilot to redraft sections, but not to regenerate the content unless you start from scratch. Always keep that in mind. If you're still in the process of initial drafting and getting Copilot to do some of that basic work, make sure you do the regeneration. Otherwise, you're into a redrafting mode instead. We now have a base report to start with, and everything's ready to go. Hopefully you've been able to see that mastering Microsoft 365 Copilot, it can be a game changer for sales professionals. It's not just a tool, it's your new strategic partner. Imagine crafting persuasive emails and managing client data while getting all of this collaboration working effortlessly. It takes the heavy lifting out of your day and lets you focus on what matters most: results. Here, we have learnt how to create market research reports and customize sales presentations, summarize communications, and even compare agreements to make smarter decisions in business. Using refined prompting skills, that's the secret sauce of it. It'll help you to extract insights, craft precise messages, and spark innovative solutions. Copilot empowers your communication, saving time and boosting collaboration so you can lead with clarity and inspire your team. And now, it's your turn. Take these skills and go make an impact. Better communication starts with better prompting. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.